Hi everyone, welcome back. Hope you're having a great day. So today we're going to do a mostly seated class. We're going to do some deeper stretches, some spine release movement. So if you have a block or even another yoga mat you can roll up, or even like a pillow or blanket, something to help lift yourself, that would be helpful. But first we're going to begin standing. Just find some gentle movements to kind of warm up the body before we stretch it a little bit further. So let's begin standing. So feel free to make your way there if you're not already. Finding your space, taking a few moments to get there. Maybe you rock forward and back on your feet. Maybe you walk around on your mat, whatever you need to do to kind of come and arrive at your space today. And then once you do so, feel free to bring those hands to your heart, connecting your fingertips, connecting your palms, and your thumbs. Maybe they connect with that chest bone, the sternum there. Finding those connection points, not only with the hands, but then also with the feet. See if you can feel the ground underneath those feet. Maybe wiggle those toes a little bit. See if you can reestablish that connection between the ground and the feet. And then let's just take a nice full breath. So we breathe in through the nose. You might lift those arms up towards the ceiling. Maybe the hands connect overhead, maybe they don't. And then exhale as they lower back down to your heart. Once again, let's inhale and breathe in. Just nice and full, filling the body and exhaling it all the way out. And just once more like that as we inhale, let's lift all the way up, and let's pause here. Maybe try looking up at those fingertips. So we're extending through those arms, those shoulders. They might start by being lifted to help lift the arms, but then see if we can soften those shoulders as we keep the arms lifted. Firming up those legs, try to lift up through the thighs and those knees as we gently reach those hips forward. Just one more full breath here and then extend in mountain. And then on that next breath out, go ahead and reach out and back behind you as you lean forward with that heart hinging at the hips. Let's find a deep forward fold. So feel free to bend those knees as much as you can until you can feel your chest connecting with the top of those thighs. And we're just going to work into this forward fold with a few breaths. So on an inhale, you might just start to lift those hips straight up towards the ceiling. The chest might lift off those legs a little bit. And then exhale, let's bend back into it. And as we breathe in, again, just lifting those hips. Maybe the chin drops towards the chest as we do so. And exhale as we bend those knees. 2 more times, just inhale. You might be able to go a little further each time you lift those hips. Waking up the back of the legs. And last time here as we take a breath in, lifting the hips high. And exhale, reconnecting. Go ahead and bring hands all the way to the floor. Let's step one foot back and then the other foot. Go ahead and come to those knees. We're going to reach our hips back towards those heels into a child's pose here, and just gently swaying those hips side to side. Shifting your weight from one hand into the other, from one shoulder into the other, and gently across those hips. And then we'll slowly come to center, keeping the hands connected with the ground. Let's inhale as we shift that weight forward, bringing our shoulders above those wrists. And on the exhale, let's bend those elbows and make our way all the way to the mat. Inhaling, let's just take a big shoulder roll back and down as we lift into a baby cobra. See if you can feel the tops of your feet gently grounding down onto the mat. And then exhale, lowering back down. Inhaling as we lift back up to our knees, and exhaling, hips reach back. Let's walk both hands over to our left side. Leaning those hips over to the right. Taking a nice full breath into that right side body, the right shoulder, wherever you feel a sensation of a stretch here. And then slowly walking those hands back through the center and over to the right side, leaning those hips over to the left. Slowly walking those hands back to center. Extending the arms forward, and then once again, let's inhale, shifting our weight forward to that plank. Exhaling, elbows bend, and then this time grounding down into those hands. let's try to lift a little bit higher into our cobra. Unless that upper dog or upper dog or baby cobra feels better, feel free to try that just for another full breath wherever you are. Try to lift up away from those shoulders as the shoulders draw back, reaching that heart forward. And then exhale, go ahead and make your way back to those knees. We're gonna walk our hands back. Let's come all the way up onto those knees. And maybe try bringing your hands to your lower back. So you can have your hands can be fists or they can be flat, fingers pointing up or down. Let's just take a big shoulder roll down the back, turning that gaze upward just like we did when we were standing. And then exhale, softening those shoulders as the elbows reach towards one another and we gently press those hips forward. See if we can find or feel ourselves breathing here. One more full breath, lifting the heart a little bit higher. And then exhaling, go ahead and come back to center. We're gonna have a seat all the way on the mat. Go ahead and swing those legs around to the front. All right, so we're gonna begin by just bringing the soles of the feet together. And let's try to draw those feet in a little bit closer to the hips. Knees pointing out to the sides. Your hands can be on the ankles or the legs or the floor. Whatever feels best for you. Sometimes if we're feeling a little extra tight, you can always bring those hands to the floor behind you for support there. This is an area where you're welcome to sit on a block or on a blanket, whatever you have handy. And as you look down at those feet, maybe try to open the inner edges of those feet, almost like you're opening a book. The outer edges of the feet are staying connected. And then feel free to shift your weight side to side a little bit. Trying to feel those sitting bones as they're connected to the ground. And as we find our center, let's inhale and lift nice and tall. On the exhale, we're slowly going to begin to hinge at those hips as we start to lean forward. Try to lead with the heart, just like we do in our forward fold. Keeping that spine long until your body pauses. Your body kind of knows where it needs to stop. It's going to tighten up to protect itself, and that's what we want it to do. But as we pause here for about 10 full breaths, just using that breath as we slow things down to kind of let your body know that it's okay to let it go just a little bit more, little bits at a time, one breath at a time. As you breathe in, you might send that breath or that awareness to wherever you feel the sensation of a stretch here. It might be along the inner thighs. If you feel it pulling more from the lower back, that's a good sign to lift the hips and sit on something. And as you breathe out, try to find some areas that you can soften. We often hold tension or tightness in different areas throughout the body without really even thinking about it, and areas that aren't really doing us any good to be holding tight. Areas such as those shoulders, right? And the jaw, sometimes we clench our jaw. Even through the hands, the fingertips, sometimes we're nice and tight and engaged through those arms. Not really serving much of a purpose, so just try to find those areas as we continue to breathe here and just allow them to let go. Think about 3 more breaths here, giving yourself permission to stay longer or come out of it earlier, whatever works for you. And then maybe on a breath in, we subtly engage through that core to help us sit all the way back up. Go ahead and extend those legs out in front of you and maybe shake them out a little bit. And then we're going to use our block. Again, if you don't have a block, you can use a pillow. You can roll up your yoga mat and use that. Lots of things that you're able to use here. But as we bring it behind us, we're going to try to have it come out lengthwise. So like vertical, a little bit away from those hips. As we're going to lower our upper body down. And as we do so, we want that block to land across the upper back, kind of right down the upper spine, in between those shoulder blades. So you might need to adjust a little bit. As you do so, feel free to bring those feet flat to the mat as you begin here. You can always use those hands behind you to move that block around. Adjusting, again, just try to have it placed underneath the upper back. So we're not resting our neck on it though, so it's below the neck, in between those shoulder blades. Allowing some space for the head to come back. It's a nice opening, not only for our heart and our shoulders, but also for the throat and the neck. Just allowing the head to rest on the mat behind or above the block. As always, if that does not feel comfortable though, you can always place a pillow or a block or something underneath the head as well. And then you might just bring those arms out to the sides, the palms facing up, allowing those shoulders to open. And just giving yourself a few breaths here to just rest on this block. Breathing into that heart center. Try to imagine where your heart is in your chest. Breathing in, creating a little more space around that area. And exhaling, again, just releasing some of that tightness we hold on to in our shoulders, in our chest, in our back. You're welcome to close those eyes, or maybe if you'd rather keep them open, you just find a spot up on the ceiling to gently gaze at. And as we're holding these postures or these stretches a little bit longer than normal, if you find the mind just wandering off or getting distracted by a certain thought or whatever it might be, that's okay. Just kind of acknowledge what that is that drew your attention, and then try to bring it back to maybe something that you feel in the body, a physical sensation. We'll take about 3 more breaths here. Okay, when you feel ready, slowly begin to lift the head. You can always bring those elbows to the ground and then work your way up to your hands. Just making your way back up to a seat. Just moving nice and slow. All right, now this time we're gonna let's start with our left leg on the floor. Let's see, there, now you can see it. Left leg on the floor. Try to have your heel away from the body and your shin about parallel with the front or the edge of your mat here. The right leg, you can just loosely cross it in front of the left, so kind of like a really relaxed, loose crisscross applesauce. Or you might stack your ankle above the knee and the knee above the ankle. We call this firebox. You'll find out if you don't feel it already. It's just a good outer hip opener here. Gets nice and tight throughout the day. So just like we did before in that butterfly stretch, you are welcome to keep your hands on the floor behind you, out to the side, or maybe as you start to hinge forward, those hands might come out to the floor in front of those legs, or you can keep your hands on your legs. I know for me, just sitting here like this, I feel a huge stretch already on my hips, on both hips. So you might feel it on one hip, maybe on both, maybe not at all. If you don't feel much at all, then maybe try lifting as you breathe in. Just try to lengthen everything as it lifts, and then exhale, hinging at those hips. Again, try to lead with the heart. The shoulders are nice and relaxed, maybe even slightly drawing back through the shoulders as the heart reaches forward. And you might start to fold over those legs. It's going to be different for each one of us. You might find that one side feels different than the other as we try the other side here in a few minutes. You know, we are where we're at. It is what it is. So just take a few breaths here. Again, you might find that as you keep that focus with the breath and on the areas where you feel that stretch, you might be able to go a little deeper. Sometimes it's just a little micro movement, a little tiny change. But that's where the big change happens, right? Is accumulation of all those tiny changes. Remembering to always give yourself permission to modify if needed. Remember, you can just loosely cross the legs. You do not need to stack the legs. You can come out of it at any point, or you can stay longer than I do. Well, let's just take about 3 more breaths here on this side. And then on a breath in, you might start to walk the hands back up. As you sit all the way back up, you can help that leg release. And feel free to bring those legs out in front of you. Maybe we shake them out a little bit. And then try just bringing both feet to the floor. The hands can come behind the body. And we'll just move those knees side to side. Rolling onto the edges of the feet, sides of the hips. Then we're going to give the other side a try. So we'll bring our right leg to the floor first. Just bending at the knee. And then the left leg, you can either loosely cross the legs or you can stack. Again, ankle over knee, knee over ankle. Just try to have that bottom heel away from the hip so it's not coming in. Shins are about parallel with the front of your mat or your space. Once again, you might notice this side feels a little tighter, or maybe it's not quite as tight as the other side. It's really common to have one side tighter than the other. So it's nice to be able to just work on one side at a time so we can notice those differences. And then go ahead and inhale as you're ready, lifting nice and tall. And then maybe on an exhale, we start to hinge at those hips. Walking the hands forward, maybe the hands stay where they're at, and we just lean forward with the heart. Bringing that awareness to where the body's holding on tight. Where are we stretching here? Where you might feel it. How you can adjust to make this work a little better for you. And let's try about 3 more breaths here on this side. Again, just try to breathe into that area where you feel a physical sensation of maybe a stretch, maybe it's a little pull, maybe it's something else. And then when you feel ready, slowly sitting back up, unstacking those legs or uncrossing those legs. Bringing them all the way out in front. Maybe have those feet about hip width apart, and then we're just going to move the feet and the legs side to side. I know you can't see my feet, but they're just kind of moving back and forth. Going all the way up to those hips. All right, and then we're going to come back to laying on the block, but this time as the block is behind you, instead of having it be vertical, we're going to turn it so it's horizontal and it's a little bit closer to the body. So as we lower down onto the block this time, the goal is to try to have the block directly underneath those shoulder blades, so across the mid-back. So taking your time to get there, finding that space. Try to have the upper edge of that block just right below the lower points of those shoulder blades. And once again, the head can rest on the floor, or if you need to put a blanket or a pillow underneath the head, you're welcome to do that. And here you're welcome to bring those arms out to the sides like you did before, or it might feel good to bring them up like cactus arms or hands on the belly, totally up to you there. And then same with the feet. You can keep feet on the floor, or you can extend those legs out in front of you That takes a little more of a bend into that lower back. You could do butterfly legs. And just exploring and finding what feels best for you, where you can feel comfortable just laying here for a few breaths, allowing the back to just release over that block. Maybe trying to find a little bit of stillness after you settle into your space. And just breathing into the areas that you are opening. The front of the shoulders, the heart, the rib cage, even into the belly. Trying to notice how you are breathing. We'll take about 3 more breaths here, or as long as you need. And then as you feel ready, go ahead and use the arms, the hands, to help yourself back up to a seat. And go ahead and extend those legs out in front of you. Maybe bring in the feet, the ankles towards one another. And we're just slowly going to start to hinge forward over those legs, just kind of reversing what we just did. As always, try to lead with the heart, reaching the heart towards the feet. You might flex the feet as the toes come back towards the heart. If those knees bend and lift a little, that's okay. Especially as you hinge forward, if you feel the pull more through the back of your knees rather than in the belly of the muscle, that's a good sign to bend those knees a little bit, because we want to be stretching the muscle here, not the joint. So you might reach for the legs, you might find the feet. If you need something further to reach for, you can always bring your block to the bottom of those feet and reach for the edge of the block. Again, it's going to be different for each one of us. But once you find that pause, maybe try to soften through those shoulders, allow them to relax. Maybe we drop the chin down towards the chest. You might try closing the eyes here. And again, if you feel that stretch more in the lower back rather than the legs, you might try sitting on your block or your blanket to lift those hips a bit. Thinking about with each breath in, reaching the crown of the head forward towards those feet. And each breath out, you might fold a little bit deeper. Inhaling as you lengthen through the spine. Exhaling as you soften. Three more full breaths here. As you feel ready, maybe on a breath in, we slowly roll all the way back up to a seat. We're going to lower ourselves all the way down onto our backs. The block can just be off to the side. So feel free to bring those knees with you in towards the chest. And as you do so, if it feels okay on that lower back, you might try rocking side to side. Just moving those knees back and forth. Feeling the lower back roll across the mat from one side to the other. And then we'll bring those knees back to center. Let's go ahead and lower both feet to the floor, and we're going to use this block one more time. This time we're going to ground down into the heels. Try lifting the hips just enough so you can bring the block underneath the hips. So it's not on the bendy part of the back, it's lower underneath that pelvis. So as we're here, you're welcome to keep both feet on the floor and just allow that lower back to release in this restorative bridge. Or you can try straightening one leg out in front of you, just letting the heel rest on the floor. And maybe try letting that foot kind of rest towards the outer edge, away from the body, kind of turned a little external rotation through that leg that's extended. It really helps to get into that psoas muscle, that it's a hip stabilizer muscle. And here it just helps stretch and open it, allowing it to release, because we hold a lot of stuff in our psoas muscle. So just one side at a time, giving it a few breaths on each leg. Or maybe you keep both feet on the floor, that's okay too. And just feeling the backs of those shoulder blades. Just sink a little deeper into the mat with each breath out as we soften through the chest and the shoulders. Just allowing gravity to help here. And if that leg was extended, or one leg, you might draw that foot back in. Maybe pause here with both feet on the floor just for a moment. See if you feel any kind of difference through those hips. And then maybe try the other side, the other leg, as it extends out onto the floor. The heel's resting on the floor and the foot just relaxing out to the side, away from the body. Breathing into that space that you're creating through the front of that hip flexor. Feeling that lower back just let go as it rests on the mat or on the block. And continuing to breathe. And then as you feel ready, you might bring both feet back to the floor. Let's bring those feet about hip width apart, knees pointing up towards the ceiling. Maybe try turning those palms facing down as the arms are coming in along the sides. And let's inhale, grounding down into those heels as we lift the hips. Maybe reach down and move that block off to the side. And then exhaling as the hips lower all the way back down. We're just gonna extend both legs and both arms, reaching up overhead. Taking a nice big stretch from fingertip to toe. And then exhaling as those knees come back in towards the chest. Feel free to rock side to side a few more times here. And if you have a few more minutes, feel free to re-extend those legs. Give yourself a few minutes in Shavasana, allowing your body to just rest on the mat. But otherwise, I will leave you here. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. Hopefully you feel a little more open, a little taller after releasing through that back and those legs and hips. And I will see you next time. Thank you. Namaste.